Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this story of this young woman who we don't actually know how she died, but she got into a fight and she considered herself to be non binary. People assume that these girls attacked her because she was non binary and that libs of TikTok somehow inspired this attack and she ended up dying, but we don't know those details. But those are the things that people are pushing in different news articles. I've read several articles about this particular story, and there's a huge account on TikTok that is going with that angle. And I will show you that video, which libs of TikTok said that this is libel and kind of hinted that she'd be doing some legal action. So we'll see where that goes. Also, the Kansas City um, shooting that happened at the Super Bowl parade. Uh, we know that the people who did it are minorities. People are talking. We don't know that they're not saying that, but images like people attacked the kids, as it happened to stop them. And the mayor kind of slipped out something. He was very offended that the governor called them thugs because of, I guess, racist connotations, according to him. So we'll play that. And it is just so bizarre how these things are handled, and it's worth talking about. But it's just crazy how they're worth talking about. I mean, how they are talked about and how they're handled. And also, Rep Bowman, he's the one who pulled the fire alarm. That guy, he is launching a hip hop task force. I guess so the people in hip hop can help the country. I guess particularly the Democrats kind of do the thing that they've always been trying to do in the black community and the hip hop community, which is equality and all that stuff. I wouldn't have guessed that those were the things that they were trying to do, you know, with all the booty shaking and stuff. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. You guys can also check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com, different mugs and different teas, etc. You guys can also check out some of my books that I've written. I have 17 that are published. You guys can find them on Amazon. I have 2 that are nonfiction. The rest are fiction. Got something for a wide variety of readers and ages and so on. So go ahead and check me out. If you go to Black Tea News, there's a banner in the merchandise page will take you to my book website. But you guys can just really find me on Amazon pretty easily and follow my page on Amazon if that's where you buy books anyway, but that's where you have to get my books, because that's basically where they're at. I know you can basically kind of order through expanded distribution, but people don't usually use that on Amazon. I'll at some point expand it to other stuff. I just haven't had the time to do that yet. But anyway, something that was funny that I saw today that I want to share. I already shared this on YouTube and Facebook on my social posts. But did you know that the IRS says it on their website that if you make money via illegal activity, you're supposed to report it? um, this is from the IRS, and it's well, it's a screenshot anyway. I posted on Facebook, I posted on YouTube. It is real. I did check it out because I saw someone on Twitter post it, and I was kind of amazed. And he's like, yes, it's real. And so I checked the link to make sure it was real. And then there are articles about it and stuff. So IRS, illegal activities. Income from illegal activities such as money from dealing drugs must be included in your income on Schedule 1 Form 1040, line 8Z, or on Schedule C Form 1040 if from your self-employment activity. So if you're out there selling crack, or whatever, uh, make sure to put that on your Schedule C form or your Schedule 1 form. Okay? And then there's also stolen property. If you steal property, you must report it its fair market value in your income in the year you steal it, unless you return it to its rightful owner in the same year. Then you don't have to report it. So maybe should just steal it for a little while, you know, and then like if you steal a bike or something and it's an expensive bike and you don't want to claim that on your taxes, make sure before the end of the year that you just leave it where you got it so the feds don't come after you one day for your back taxes for not declaring certain things. This is hilarious. It's so funny. On YouTube someone's like this is how they think gun control was going to work. I guess criminals just self-reporting, self-turning in these things. It's a really easy way to bust people, for committing crimes if they're just reporting all their illegal activity that they're doing in their forms. Um, I mean, I assume that they just make that known that people have to do that. So once they do bust you for things, that they are like, oh, well, you sold drugs and you also owe back taxes on those drugs. So maybe if the drug charges fall through or something, they can still get you on the back taxes, the underreported taxes or whatever. So I'm assuming it's another way just to get you. But in the end, in the event that they actually do go out and do their jobs and catch people, but gosh, it's funny to me. It's so funny. Uh, because I just can't imagine a criminal just being like, oh, let me go file my drug money, my IRS form. Someone on Facebook under my post said, "This is a joke, right?" I'm like, nope, it's not. I'm replying right now. It's not a joke, as Joe Biden would say. uh, we're funny. We're a funny, silly nation. Anyway, I see you guys in the comments. Thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching back later. So you already got a couple on YouTube and see Tina's watching on Twitch today. So anyway, let's move on. Let's move on, get right to it. So Libs of TikTok, who got pretty famous building her account anonymously at first, and then Taylor Lorenz did like a deep dive into her life and exposed her, you know, and put her name out in public. And then people start attacking. She's a common name, Jewish name, I suppose. And then a woman this who was not lived with TikTok. People started attacking her online, harassing her and stuff. But it was just a mess when she decided to go after her. And excuse me. Sorry, I'm like recovering from this cold. It was I assume my nephew got me. I was really trying to fight it off, and yesterday it hurt to swallow. And my throat is kind of okay today, but I woke up and it was like just kind of hard. I don't know, to breathe a little bit with I would just really cough and cough and a lot of stuff going on. So I'm like, oh gosh, when I first woke up, I'd even be able to talk to you guys today, but I got better, but I'm still going through it. So just have to excuse me. Anyway, she the Babylon Bee let it be known that they would help her and help to fund kind of the work that she's doing, which I do think she's doing important work. And she built her platform just going on TikTok and looking at crazy videos that people post themselves. People post those videos themselves on TikTok, and there are crazy videos, people going off saying the most racist stuff, and their stuff circulates. but they hate the right kind of people, like white people, whatever. And their stuff just goes viral. Their stuff, they get a lot of followers just saying, the most hateful kind of whatever, or people saying, wackadoodle stuff about gender and all kinds of stuff. Uh, Different videos on privilege or whatever, just anything that you could imagine that would make the right go, wow, that sounds really crazy. Or not just the right, just people in the middle, like, what's wrong with our world? Um, she would take those videos and she would just post them on Twitter. And she just got a big following. I don't even know if she has a TikTok page because it's probably taken down. Um, and so she just kept getting followers after followers and followers. And then people started sending in different tips to her. And so she would post that too. So I think she does important work, but this person, people accuse her of doxing. I'm not aware of her doxing, folks. I think information that doxing, I think, is when you like reveal information that's not public or whatever. Um, but I mean, nobody really wants probably that heat, that's attention. But I don't understand people who really don't want that attention and they're putting their crazy crying videos like, I just got misgendered at work and I can't believe this lesbian wouldn't accept the fact that I'm a non-binary chicken, and they're so mean to me. Videos like that she would post. And but why would you post that if you didn't want people to see it, if you didn't want some kind of attention? And I understand that a lot of people, they kind of feel like the internet is their diary, and people do vlogs or whatever, so to some people it is their diary. But you can't like put all this information out there and not expect people to have opinions about it. You're inviting people into your life in that sort of way. So especially when you start getting into things that are political and whatnot. So she receives unnecessary hate to me. She's become more of a force since Taylor Lorenz came after her to expose her, and now it's just even worse. So this story, there was a young woman who was 16, and she got into a fight with some girls at school. According to different, I've read several articles about it. From what I could gather, all the girls went to the office, were able to walk to the office fine, and uh, and she was fighting. I read was I heard that she had a friend who fought with these other three girls. They were older. I don't think she was, it was 1v3, but and I don't know how. I mean, she's a sophomore, so they got to be like a year or two older. But there's three girls, and they got to an altercation, and so the nurses or whatever in the school recommended that one of them, which I'm assuming is this young girl who um, passed away, that she get checked out. And so she did go to the hospital, and um, and I think they released her and stuff, but then she ended up having complications later, and she ended up like passing out on the floor at home, like in the living room, and they took her to the doctor, and and then she died. And so people are saying, oh, it's probably for brain swelling and a bunch of other stuff from the fight, and that she was murdered. And I don't know where Libs of TikTok comes in all this, other than the fact that Libs of TikTok did point out one of the teachers some years ago said some stuff like, if your parents don't get you or whatever, accept you as trans, like F them, which she reported, and that person ended up resigning. And she has some she's drawn attention to some things that the town is aware of or whatever. So she has influence, but for people to be like, this person died because of Libs of TikTok is pretty remarkable. So let me go ahead and play this TikTok from Under the Desk. Now, Under the Desk is a big account on TikTok. They have like 3 million followers, I believe, but they came onto the scene. She kind of was like presenting herself as if she was kind of going to be, middle of the road with the straight news kind of reporting, and people eventually like caught on that she wasn't that way. But she's got a big following and has had it for a minute. So this is how she reported on this particular tragedy.
Republican rhetoric contributed to the beating death of a 16-year-old student in Oklahoma. Just a few weeks ago, Ryan Waters, the superintendent of schools in Oklahoma, added the creator of Libs of TikTok to the school library board. And it was too much even for the people of Oklahoma. There was no benefit to putting a woman from California who has no children in the Oklahoma school system on the school board when the entire ethos of her social media account is to attack, dehumanize, criticize, and dox queer people. And that hateful rhetoric and dehumanizing of queer people, coupled with the broad attacks on trans children, resulted in the death of a child. This here is Next Benedict. They were a straight A student who lived with their grandma, loved to draw, and loved animals. And 3 older girls in the high school beat them to death on the floor of the girls' bathroom. The attack was broken up by a teacher who did not call an ambulance, even though Next could not walk themselves to the nurse's office, and did not call the police. Instead, they sent them home to their grandmother, who ended up taking them to the hospital where they succumbed to their injuries. Next identified as non-binary. They committed no crime. And if you're a kid out there right now who identifies as non-binary and you're seeing this kind of stuff and it's making you feel very hopeless, just know that there are people out here who are fighting for you, who are fighting to make sure that this never happens again. You will get to grow up, you will get to be who you want to be, and we will not let them take that away from you. So stay with me.
Um, so she really didn't explain there how libs of TikTok correlated to that death. Now, I read an article today that is from today about an update on this, and they don't. They're still waiting and investigating about what happened in all this. They don't have a conclusive toxology report or anything like that. She died on the 8th. If if they concluded that 3 girls beat her to death on the bathroom floor, as she said, uh, don't you think that those girls would be arrested? Or we would hear something along those lines about those girls being arrested? I'm not saying that the facts won't eventually bear that out, but right now we just don't know that to be the case. We don't know if that's the case. But these people are jumping to libs of TikTok as responsible for this girl's death. And even comments like, "Oh, her account exists to dehumanize trans and non-binary people." What do you mean by that? Like, dehumanizing language is like if we were talking about abortion or something, and you said clump of cells, or they called it a parasite, or something like that, something so you can take away their human dignity, so you can deny them rights or whatever. I would assume someone would say, I'm dehumanizing this young woman because I'm not using they pronouns, and uh won't respect the fact that she believes that she's non-binary. I can acknowledge that she believes that, but I mean, doesn't make it so. But this is a local report today. Owasso police say they're interviewing school staff and students regarding the recent death of a local student reportedly identified as non-binary. Dagny Benedict, 16, died Thursday, February 8th, one day after they were reportedly involved in an altercation at Owasso High School. Police say detectives have and and will be interviewing school staff and students over the course of the next 2 weeks, and in turn will be submitting our investigation to the Tulsa County District Attorney's Office for prosecution review. Also, Police Lieutenant Nick Boatman said in an email, "It is unknown at this time if Benedict's death is related to the altercation. A thorough investigation is being conducted by detectives who plan to release further information following an autopsy and toxicology test." Boatman said it is Owaso's PD's policy to not release uh, an incident reports for cases that are under active investigation when the risk of compromising or harming the investigation. There are laws regarding open records and confidential records, and the Owasso Police Department will release all information required by law. Boatman said, "We understand that people are concerned about this incident, and we can assure everyone that this incident is being taken seriously and is being investigated thoroughly." Owasso Public School administrators sent a letter to district parents Tuesday as speculation and misinformation surrounding the case has intensified. After consulting with investigators, the district released information about the incident, including that all involved walked under their own power to the nurse's office. So, according to interviews or whatever, this information that she gave is incorrect. Um, so they walked to the nurse's office and assistant principal's office. Through district protocol, it was determined an ambulance was not required. However, it was recommended that one of those involved seek further medical care. So she probably got the crap beaten out of her. Benedict had a love of nature and caring for cats, particularly their cat Zeus. She enjoyed a variety of pastimes, such as watching The Walking Dead, drawing, reading, and playing Ark and Minecraft video games, according to her obituary. And then there's a GoFundMe there they mentioned. So um it could be that they got into an altercation and they attacked her because she's non-binary or identifies as non-binary. It could be a total hate crime. It could be that her injuries eventually led to complications that led to her passing away. Those could turn out to be the facts of the case. The facts of the matter is that right now we don't know that to be the case. They're still investigating it. But people saying libs of TikTok is responsible for this. What if I don't know? It's just some other teenage drama stuff going on. Oh, you guys got excuse me. I got to cough real quick. Ooh, I am sorry. Ooh, I'm sorry. I told you I was sick. So they don't know that libs of TikTok was responsible for some kind of rhetoric that led to this child's death. And even if that were the case, she's not responsible for the actions of other people. But it seems very evident, not just this video that was on TikTok. Again, she has like 3 million followers. Let me see how many views it has really quick. Um, I thought it had like 400,000 likes or something crazy like that. Or maybe it had like 400,000 views because I didn't look at it. I was going to reply to it on TikTok. But Lips of TikTok said something along the lines of this is more than just libel. Um, no, maybe it has 400,000. Uh, yeah, over 400,000 views on this video, and it has almost 100,000 likes, 91,000 likes, almost 4,000 comments, about 3.6 bookmarks, over 3,000 shares. So this is not responsible reporting. This is narrative pushing. And let me go exactly where Libs of TikTok um, said the comment about suing. Bear with me, guys. I'm so sorry about the illness. These kids, though. So let me share this my screen really quick. I'm so glad I had water though. Before my show, I was like, let me make sure I got some water. Um, so here's the tweet. Here's an account with 3 million followers just casually blaming a teen's death on me. She says, I contributed to the death and my rhetoric resulted in the death. Defamation doesn't even begin to cover what this is. This is straight up libel. I will not tolerate this. And then you see there's like a little symbol there with like a judge and the scales of justice. So the implication there is that she's going to seek some kind of legal action against this content creator under the desk. And I don't know where that will or won't go, or if she really will do it. But I think that she should. Um, Now she believes that libs of TikTok, that the content that they produce, again, mostly they find videos of crazy stuff that people post themselves and just repost it. That's how the account got huge. So that's how that account got huge. And then they continued, people started sending them in different tips of like crazy stuff that was going in their high school, or crazy stuff that was going in hospitals and other stuff like that. So they do other like investigative work, and it's more than just reposting videos now. It became something bigger, but that's how they came to be. But if you think that's hateful, just basically putting a flashlight on the kind of stuff that hurt people from her side of the aisle say, what is it not hateful to be like, this person is responsible for murder? That is way more hateful and crazy and dangerous and irresponsible compared to whatever she thinks that the lips of TikTok is doing. So I I want to call her out, and my account is much smaller than hers, and TikTok is kind of suppressing it. But hopefully, other people do the same, because this is not okay. It's not okay to just assume that, and we don't even know the facts of the case. Again, it could be that they got into a fight over this, and maybe it is a hate crime, and maybe they're going to arrest those three girls for murder, and there's not some kind of other, I don't know, coincidental underlining condition that it resulted in the death, um, or even some kind of self harm. Maybe it was just these girls, and they are responsible for murder, and they will be, arrested and convicted to whatever degree that they can be. I'm assuming they're all minors. We'll see. Those might be the facts of the case, but the truth is, at this point in time, we don't know. We don't know. And to, again, blame it on libs of TikTok is just really telling, and just full with agenda. Not the truth, not seeking the truth. It is really irresponsible, because there are people, I'm sure, that follow under people like under the desk, who believe that this person is a straight shooter who's just telling the facts of the matter, and that they trust them. You know, I want to put out good content that is true, um, because I know, well, I don't, one, I don't like to be wrong, and I want to be honest. But I know people will look to me and be like, "Oh, I trust her word. I think she'll research. I think she'll look at the stuff, and I don't think she would share something if it wasn't true." And I don't like being wrong, again, and but not just because I don't want to look wrong, but I don't want to do wrong by you guys. So she's not doing right by her followers with this story. It's just really egregious, and I don't know if the end game. I don't know if the end game is simply people just turning on libs of TikTok and getting her shut down on all kinds of different places, or what. Um, but she said some things that she can't definitely prove, at least especially right now. So hopefully there is some kind of legal action for her. Um, but this, it's always a tragedy when a young person dies. Any person, I guess. But someone asked me, did I think the family had an agenda with how they're kind of pushing the story, because they seem to believe, the narrative that's being pushed. And I'm like, they're grieving. They probably believe the fact, like how everyone's reporting it is kind of how it's laid out, that their child was killed by these girls at the school. Like they probably just, that's what they believe. That's how they're processing it. Like, I don't believe that just because they went along with the non-binary stuff that they have a necessary political agenda. They're a grieving family. You give them space to do that. But this person here under the desk, and other articles that I read, uh, like the Independent, they're just they're just political actors. Like the Independent wrote a story in like half about this, and half the story was about libs of TikTok and their history. And again, there's there's no connection that we know of, legitimately. So do better, absolutely do better. Um, Next thing I want to talk to you guys about is this crazy story over the weekend. Um, Ann Coulter went on Bill Maher's show, and people kind of laughed at what she said a little bit, but they knew mostly people were like, "Oh, I don't agree with Ann on everything, but she's pretty right on this." They were talking about the Kansas City shooters, and she let it be known that we know about them. Like we we absolutely know stuff about them because they won't tell us stuff about them. Therefore, they must be white. And the audience kind of laughed about that, and Bill was kind of taken aback. But there's some truth to what she's saying.
I mean, we don't know who did this shooting, by the way, the Super Bowl shooting.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know, but they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
But you think they're repressing that reporting?
They wouldn't tell us about the transgender woman that shot up the Christian school for what, like a year? San Bernardino out here. Remember the crazy terrorist Muslims? That's when I first noticed, they're not telling us who it is. It's not a white male. The longer they go without telling you, it's not a white male.
Okay, well, for this one, for right now, as of Friday night, February 16th.
We know.
We don't officially know. Okay, you have special powers.
So that's a clip that's going around, and everyone's just like, she's kind of right, though. At least on Twitter's sphere, the algorithm, at least that I'm saying, people are like, I don't necessarily love Ann Coulter, but she's kind of got a point here. So when that shooting happened, and by the way, this was the Super Bowl parade. So people are excited, happy, celebrating their team victory, and then there's shots, gunfire. And so they were like reporting it at first, and it seemed like it was going to take that political route. And then there's kind of a drawback. At least that's what it seemed like. Because people were already comparing it to like the kind of conversations people were having about that versus like the shooting at Olstein's church that didn't. I don't know how many people even talked about that. Like I talked about it on my show, and my sister was like, I haven't seen a lot about it. I'm not saying people didn't report about the Olstein shooting, but that was a woman who was a minority who was very unwell, who had a gun that said Palestine on it and stuff. So probably wasn't in a good guy with a gun who was like an off-duty cop stopped her. So not kind of the narrative that they want to go on for days about usually with this stuff. If it was a crazy white male shooter who worshiped Candace Owens, and that's something that we'd have a lot of coverage about usually. And forgive me for noticing, because that's just kind of how it is. But the I don't know, story kind of died down a bit about it, and now the story is like, well, why won't you guys talk about the shooters? Because people did attack the shooters. TMZ like released some footage of the shootings and other stuff like that, and it looks like they're all minors, and they look like they're all black. There might be some other people involved who are not, but it looks like they're minorities. But the governor said something about calling them thugs, and the mayor didn't take too kindly to that. Quentin Lucas So I'm going to play this audio for you guys of him being offended by the language used by the governor to describe these people who were shooting up stuff and ended up like injuring. I think it was like one person died, 20 people injured, and like kids were involved and other stuff. I mean, it's at a parade. What kind of like hoodlum nonsense do you take into a freaking Super Bowl parade?
Later on in this program, after the shooting, he said, "We can't let some thugs and criminals just take over and ruin what happened." I gather that's not quite your assessment of what happened that day.
I have respect for the governor. We get along well. I disagree strongly with how he would describe that situation. I certainly do think this was criminal activity. It was lawlessness, and I think that that's troubling. But thugs is a dog whistle in the most classic sense. And I have seen this dog whistle time and again. There's this kind of giant conservative theory on social media now that the reason that mugshots haven't been shown is because the purported defendants are black. And if it were a white defendant, we would have just shown them. That is absolutely preposterous. There are protections to juveniles. Our city has a gun violence problem.
So, yes, there is a giant conspiracy on the right that they would just release more information about these guys if they weren't black. Now he was upset about the term thug because he thinks there's like a racist connotation to it. So he's kind of giving it away that they are minorities. I think if you go around shooting people and doing crime and stuff, it's okay to call you a thug. You know, if there was a white dude among them doing thuggish kind of things, I would still say they're all thugs. I think that's fair. If there was, other ethnicities there doing thuggish kind of things, I think it would be all fair to call them all thugs. And there's no point in getting offended on their behalf when they did this crazy stuff. They're old enough to know that you shouldn't be shooting people at a parade, even if they're minors. Even if they're minors, they're old enough to know better. I know our community doesn't operate like this, our world. After they caught them, they should have, I don't know, horsewhipped them. Just a line of people, like, I to do that is so insane. And to me, it's just crazy how people have no respect for other people, no respect for other people's lives, for their property, for their well-being, not even really for themselves, because why would you go out and ruin your life like this by going out and causing harm to others? But it's just a behavior I can't wrap my mind around. I guess because I was just raised right, and maybe they had some people who tried to raise them right, but I listened and they didn't. But we do have a society that worships death, and that teaches that it's all about the self. And even, when you're a criminal doing bad stuff, there's really no accountability for you because it's always the system's fault that created this kind of circumstance or whatever. There's just kind of no accountability in our society. So we're not raising a healthy world. We're not raising a healthy society at all. And I could go on and on about it, but I hope they throw the book at these kids. And I understand they don't really want to release a lot of information about them. A lot of people are pointing out the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse, which I already seen the comments from folks like KitKat, was like immediately released. Information about Kyle Rittenhouse was immediately released. There's information about Kyle Rittenhouse and his mom and details about the whole story that weren't even true, that people still believe to this day. Talking about, he did all, pretend like he drove all far and then his mom dropped him off at the site, and just he carried the gun across state lines, and there's details that are wrong that people who apparently did not watch the trial um did they keep spreading stuff. There's people who probably still believe that he killed black people that day, you know? And and they're and beyond like people on the left believe that he killed black people. Like I was talking about the case when all this was, going down, and I sent my dad, he was doing missionary work. I don't think he was in Mexico at the time. I think he was somewhere else, but or maybe he was leaving Mexico to go somewhere else, but um I sent him an article that I wrote. It was like everything wrong or everything suspicious or something about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And then he called me back and he was like, "Oh, that was a really good article." He's like, I didn't know all those details and from the news and stuff. I thought that he had shot some black people." And my dad is not someone who goes to go consume like left wing media, but that just was like the hype around this case. And then I was talking about my dad's response, and my mom was like, "Well, I didn't know that he didn't kill black people until I heard you guys talking about it." It was so bizarre. But there were literally articles that were printed that said that he killed black people. So not only were people like immediately Kyle's face out there, but just wrong information that people did not care about to spin all kinds of narratives about this kid and what happened. And we knew like immediately from, because there was a lot of, footage from that day and stuff that basically that this was self-defense, and he had to go through all the drama of the trial and everything, and we were on the edge of our seat like he should clearly get off, but they clearly want a scalp here. So if they take this scalp, how is that going to somehow cascade into other people's, right of self-defense? In a case where it was so obvious, in a case where one of the survivors on the stand admitted that Kyle didn't shoot until like they came after him. That was that Gage guy. So we just live in a freaking crazy world. But it wasn't just Kyle that people were mentioning. There's a one tweet where someone had like 3 different people. Let me try to pull it up for you guys. Kyle was a Covenant kid, and the kid at the Kansas game. Was it Kansas game? Yeah, I found the tweet where, now granted only one of these cases were criminal, but people immediately like went after these folks regardless of the fact that they were minors when it was just a little boy. Now that was a really woke newspaper that went after this boy. They said he was wearing blackface. At first in the article they just showed like the side where his face isn't half red. And then they doubled down on it, which by the way, I did read, I didn't cover this yet, that the family was going to look into actually suing. So that's interesting, and I'll let you know as more details about that comes out, if it comes to fruition or whatever. But the Covenant kid, this kid was just wearing a MAGA hat and smiling, and people were like, "Oh, he has a punchable face," and thought he was so disrespectful when this Native man was just like in his face, like dancing and stuff. He was the aggressor in that situation. And that kid was just, there, and he ended up, getting settlements and stuff from after he sued different news organizations. But that was a crazy, his face, like the blow up of his story was insane. But the Kyle Rittenhouse situation made me really concerned. Now I think I'm not gonna there were some interviews with Kyle afterwards where he just I guess was enjoying life or whatever, that I'd be like, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said that. And I think you need to rein it in, kid. Just be kind of, not big pimping and more, just kind of more gracious, because your life was almost utterly ruined. But and you got out by the, skin of your teeth, bruh. But yeah, they wall to wall talking about this kid. So again, maybe they don't want to release that information about the shooters because they're minors. But what's interesting is that it happened in a public place, very public. among the public, multiple people shot, and TMZ's got video, other people have video, crowd tackled down or whatever. I understand not wanting to release the names, but it's kind of a public situation anyway. So not doing it is creating more of a conspiracy. But maybe they don't want to release any information because they're minors, mugshots or whatever. Maybe, but we know, we know, we know. But it is an important distinction when it is like gang violence versus when someone goes off and has some kind of political ideological thing or whatever, and they go out and they want to do a mass shooting, because mass shooters have a different kind of psychological profile. And what's interesting is that we talk about these things a lot, and we'll show their pictures, and I don't really do that, but other news organizations will. They'll pour over their manifesto and all that stuff. And I don't want to inspire other weirdos to do the same thing, to have a situation where they live in infamy, you know. But with these people who are doing this gang violence kind of stuff, I think that we need to embarrass the crap out of these people. And you know, I don't know. Let's just, instead of, before we send them to jail, let's just get an army of grandmothers with shoes and belts and just have a go at it. Like, I thought you was raised better than this, you know, and just be like, before we try you and throw you in prison forever, we're going to embarrass the crap out of you. And all your homies are gonna laugh at you in prison or whatever, you know. Um, we have to degrade these people who do these awful things to they think they're so hard or whatever. Like, no, you're a clown who just has no sense. Um, so Kit Kat said, "Don't forget the wooden spoon." Is the wooden spoon more like a um? Is that more like a Hispanic thing? I've seen people do hip TikToks and stuff about it. I don't know how many people beat with a wooden spoon, but um, you know, I guess my mom would sometimes get what she could get, but she definitely got one of my sisters with a flip flop one time. We were at a hotel and she kept bothering. The sandal is very popular. So it's a shame is a very powerful tool. It is. We need to introduce some societal shame back with these people. You know, that's another thing that gets me when I see like the mass crime in 2020 of all these people going out and stealing stuff and these big mobs. I'm just like, I would be embarrassed to do something like that, and then people recognize me and think that my parents didn't raise me right. Like, maybe I'm a I don't know, a strange person, but those things run in my mind. I'm like, I would be too ashamed to do something like that and to bring that kind of shame upon my family. So we got to reintroduce some shame into the society. So that's that's what I think. But Ed Coulter was right. We do. We do. We do. We know. But another thing about it being gun violence, the mayor, admitted it was crime. It was gun violence. But the thing about it, what are you doing about the crime? What are you doing about the crime? Are you tough on crime? How are your DAs? How are your prosecutors? Are they George Soros prosecutors? Are you into getting rid of cash bail? Are you just kind of letting these criminals roam the streets and do whatever? If you are hard on crime and throwing people in jail, and when people, these are minors, why do they have these guns anyway? If you were hard on these criminals who get access to these things and you throw the book at them, and that's what your city is known for, you'll see a turnaround. You'll see a turnaround. But if lawlessness sort of prevails, it's just going to continue prevailing. And no shocker there. There was one article that I saw. Let me see if I can find the tweet about it real quick. Was someone had screenshot some of it where people were talking about um, guns and access to guns, and they kind of gave it away because they're like, well, these criminals are getting access to the guns through uh, people who are legally buying them, and then they'll steal them. So if criminals are stealing guns and you're saying they're getting them from us, we law abiding citizens. So what is the answer? Is the answer is that we just can't have guns because then the criminals will get guns from the law abiding citizens? You just got to confiscate them all. Uh, AG Hamilton 29. I follow him on Twitter. He's the one who screenshot the article was Missouri has some of the weakest gun laws in the US. Here's how that's impacting the Kansas City shooting investigation. And AG was said this seems relevant to this discussion that the two suspects charged thus far are juveniles that clearly could not legally buy or own a gun in Missouri. And then they said, but you give away the game when you cite theft and straw buyers, which are against the law, as evidence of insufficient gun laws. Then it becomes clear that the purpose of the new laws isn't to target criminals, but to limit access for those who follow the law. So then the article said the state's lax gun laws have allowed for firearms to reach criminal hands through legal gun owners by the way of theft, private sales, and straw buyers, etc. So yeah, if you're complaining, saying that the gun law sucks because people are stealing the guns from the law-abiding citizen, you have to do something about people who steal things. And I'm not saying we gotta chop off people's hands, but you got to do something for these folks who steal. And a lot of people who have some kind of criminal record, they do stuff again and again and again before they move up to more serious sorts of crime. So you gotta be serious about keeping people safe, or eventually it will spill out into a Super Bowl parade and get people hurt or even killed. So anyway, last thing I want to talk to you guys about is something that the brilliant fire alarm puller, Jamal Bowman, congressman, unfortunately he is such, has some kind of task force for hip hop that he's introducing. So that's something.
This is not just about music. This is about addressing the injustices in our society. Now it's time to organize formally and bring into the halls of Congress the power and the transformative nature of hip hop culture. Our goal is to make sure the hip hop community has a seat at the table as we work on federal policy.
So I can think of nothing good about hip hop culture other than the fact that many of these people love their mamas and will go back and buy them a house. Other than that, the actual music that many of these people produce, drugs, drug dealing, crime, guns, and I like, guns and stuff, but, not using them to look hard or do criminal sort of activity. Um, you know, Protecting myself from people who would do such things. Yes, good. Um, Whores, Snoop Dogg with girls in chains, booty shaking, WAP, stuff like that. Um, and it goes beyond that. I would not want our culture to be inspired by those things. And you could do rap music and other things and not be involved in those sorts of things. I mean, my cousin is a Christian rapper. His name is Gabriel. He does good work. KB is very good. KB's Weight and Glory album is nearly perfect. There's just a couple songs that I skip. They're not bad, but that someone asked the other day on TikTok what's an album that you could go through without skipping, and so I went back and listened to that to see if that one would qualify. But there's a couple songs I skip, but it's so good. He seems to be real for real. Um, you know, Lecrae's pretty good, but he's not my favorite for various reasons I don't want to get it sidetracked into. So there's people who do rap music that's not like entrenched in some kind of uh insidious sort of hip hop culture that we're aware of, but we shouldn't just invite these people into the halls of Congress to work out stuff just because they're famous and rich. Um, and I'm sure that most of these people think that they'll vote a particular way. When Ice Cube, um, uh, yeah, Ice Cube, he was interested in doing something like the Platinum Plan. Biden and his team wouldn't even meet with them, so he met with Trump's team, and they came out with a Platinum Plan, whatever. Not that anybody cared. I mean, people cared, but not enough people cared, and of course, didn't. He didn't sweep the black vote like he was hoping, or make the inroads that he was quite hoping for, though there was an increase. Um, yeah, but they didn't care. Um, Nicki Minaj, leans a bit right. When she did a song, I'm a Republican voting for Mitt Romney. You stupid, such and such as are messing up the economy. And she had nice words to Ben. When people retweeted stuff about Bowman's announcement about trying to bring in the hip hop community, Ben was like, "I'm here if you need me," or something along those lines, which was funny because Ben and Tom McDonald did get uh, Billboard number ones in a couple different categories for their song Facts. So it's still a good troll. It's still a very good troll. Um, but some people were upset about their song because they did call out negative things about hip hop culture, about, drugs and turning your daughters into whores and other kind of stuff like that. And I'm like, but are they wrong? Are they wrong? It doesn't promote, women fully clothed with their good education, just, making a good home or something. They don't promote good sort of family values. That's not what the hip hop community does. And that's not what the black community really needs. I understand people like the music or vibes or whatever. But I think it's so strange. And Bowman talked about how a lot of this music like really spoke to him. And I just think that's so weird. Like Candace Owens, she's always had like an affinity for Kanye West, and she talked about how she loved his music and how it inspired her and other kind of stuff like that. And I know, and when I first heard her talk about it, I'm just like, Kanye West? I'm like, why? I'm like, you need the Lord. I'm like, why did the Lord inspire you? Like, why did he Kanye West? Like, it was so weird. Just how but she looked at him, or even when she was like talking about trying to explain things when there was a whole him saying anti-Semitic stuff and other stuff like that. She talked about people don't understand how important Kanye is to the black community, and I'm sure he's important to many people. He is creatively, has a lot going on as far as like his musicality and genius there, but uh I don't know. Um it's not something I'd want to brag about, I guess. But let me read a little bit of this article from The Hill covering this topic, because I just don't get it. Other than you want to bring people to the table to bring influence, to push policies, to use their platforms as these artists who are very famous, uh, and then they'll inspire their fans to be involved, to push for different stuff, and they'll vote. That I understand. And if it's a game, just say it's a game. Um, but hip hop culture, like that's not what we need. Like, you know, uh, I would like our politics to get a bit more tasteful and serious. Um, on both sides of the aisle, like I'm sorry, I don't care how much you guys like Kid Rock at Trump rallies and stuff. I I kind of miss when Bush would have like Yolanda Adams to the White House or something. Like that's more my jam. That's more my jam. But someone like Cardi B doing interviews with Joe Biden and stuff, that's crazy pandering. And this, it's just she like drug and rob men and stuff. Like the task force led by Bowman will use hip hop's messaging of building a more equitable society to help spearhead initiatives to address economic equality, affordable housing, and racial justice imperatives. Are you guys aware of like hip hop being about building a more equitable society and of other stuff like that? I mean, I know they rap a lot about money and stuff, and like I said, they go and they buy their mama some houses, but I don't listen to a lot of hip hop music, so maybe I'm missing a lot apparently. But that's just not what I think hip hop is kind of known for, trying to change, social dynamics things and stuff. I mean, I know there's like bleep the police and stuff like that, but um anyway, in an exclusive with The Hill, Bowman explained that the inspiration behind the task force came from reflecting on how the genre impacted him over the years. Artists like Eric B. and Rakim, Queen Latifah, Chuck D, and Public Enemy inspired the New York lawmaker throughout his life, he said, including during his time as an educator. They were very instrumental in creating a curriculum and blueprint for my life. The Mr. Pull the fire alarm in non-emergencies. Bowman told The Hill, I owe a lot of who I am to the lessons that they taught me on and through their music. Hip hop, which celebrated its 50th anniversary last August, has often been used as a political tool for Black and Brown Americans. And Bowman said he hopes to capitalize on that through the task force. Hip hop has always been about ending poverty in America. Has it? Has hip hop been about ending poverty? I think it's about ending personal poverty by like crime and stuff. Like I just don't, get that vibe that when you say America, you think about like poor white trash or something. Like how far does it go? Are you thinking about, dirt poor people in rural America or Appalachia or something, or is it just, I got rich selling my music and now I'm buying my mama a house and buying some stuff for my other folks? And this just is weird to me. Am I missing something? Again, we weren't even like allowed to really listen to secular music growing up. So there's a lot of stuff I just don't know. But again, perhaps it's just my ignorance. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's always about hip hop has always been about ending poverty in America, about fully funding our public schools. Are there songs about that? Are those like the top hip hop charts? Is that what Megan Thee Stallion writes about? Is that what WAP's about? Funding public schools? Maybe I'm missing something. It's always been about justice reform and police reform. The lawmaker said, well, they have plenty of opinions about the police, sure. It's always been about affordable housing and dealing with issues of threats of violence. Absolutely dealing with threats of violence. Via violence. At this moment in particular, when you consider the Black Lives Matter movement and the ceasefire movement and the fight that continues for freedom, justice, equality, now it's time to build political power at a level that's never been done before. And that's what I think it's about. It's about building political power, and you bringing people, different people, making them feel really important, and getting their followers involved in what they're doing, and trying to engage a voting bloc to push certain initiatives that you want done, and so on. I don't doubt that Bowman likes that stuff and he wants to hobnob with celebrities and pay homage to some people that he liked growing up or whatever. Um, but I'm just not aware of hip hop always being about fully funding public schools, and public schools are a lot of schools actually have a lot of money. They just don't manage the funds well, and I mentioned this the other day. A good public school can really change your life in a better direction, but people need options. They need like charter school options and private school options or homeschooling, you know. And if we could empower families and fund students instead of systems, we'd be a lot better off. But wanting to just keep bad schools open and think a fire hose of cash is going to solve a problem just isn't the thing. But um, yeah, but they're not saying hip hop is about building strong families. They're not saying anything like that because that would be untrue. But that's something that our communities actually need. That's something that the Black community is specific. All communities need that, but there is like a disproportionate um, amount with like fatherless homes and stuff that you can see just kind of bared out in the data or crime and statistics and all that stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. You guys can read the rest later on your own, but um so Kit Kat said they could have fooled me. They could have fooled me. Yeah, they could have fooled me. Uh uh this is good. Coming from the music genre that helps contribute to the overspending culture in the Black community. That is true. You want something, you go buy it, etc. Um I just never heard a good rap song that's about building good credit, and maybe it's out there. I don't know. But that's just not um what I think about when I think about hip hop culture at all, especially with a lot of stars. Now, he even says something about Megan Thee Stallion being shot, and uh he like Bowman also points out how legitimizing hip hop can lead to widespread cultural change. One way he said is by addressing misogyny, both in the genre and public discourse. So, so if hip hop culture does lead to misogyny, which obviously does, right? Because just the treatment of women in a lot of those music videos and songs and stuff. Uh, why would you want to legitimize it and bring that into the halls of Congress if that's something that you're aware that it pushes? But he said the lawmaker points to the story of Megan Thee Stallion, who faced vitriol and hate after filing assault charges against the rapper Tony Lanez after he shot her. She persevered, she fought, she told the truth, and she won, he said, and that's what we need to know about. Uplifting women in hip hop is a core component of the task force, in part because Black women have been instrumental in the fight for equality and justice, said Bowman. That's part of the reason why he unveiled the task force on Wednesday. On the anniversary of his mother's death. And he talks about how he grew up in a single mother household, and his mother used to listen to and enjoy hip hop with him as he grew up. I'm very lucky because I was raised in the culture, the time when the culture was not as misogynistic and violent. So he talks about how he wants to play honor to his mom. But some of the women who are leading the charge in the hip hop community, like, are there any bigger hip hop women than Megan Thee Stallion and like Cardi B and stuff? I just would not want to, you know, they care about their money. It's not like they say things all the time that don't make sense. They say some things that like there's some semblance of like, oh my gosh, why are they charging me so much taxes but there's just they'll have like some common sense moment. They can think like other people can think. But I just wouldn't want those to be the examples of like feminine strength that you want young black women to look up to. So I don't understand thinking that this is a good idea other than you want to amass power from their fan bases and stuff. And maybe it's not even that strategic. Maybe it's just a dumb idea, like pulling the fire alarm. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because that's cost of streaming around my website, all that stuff. So you guys get support. I appreciate it. You guys can check out different merch that we have available at the store, and also different books that I have. If you go to that merchandise page, you'll find it. Like one series that I have is The Color of God's Eyes, and follows in the Song of the Devil's Lips, and it takes place during the American Civil War. I think the American Civil War meets X-Men, and which you might as well find a new kind of X-Men thing you like, because it ain't going to be X-Men 97 from Disney that they're putting out. I don't like what I'm seeing. I was going to watch it anyway, but we'll have to talk about that another day. Thank you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. God bless.